Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little darker, a little sandier, a little more bug-infested. We're slipping out of the comfort of clean sheets and air conditioning and into a world where the sun rises angry. The beds are made of reeds, and personal hygiene is a collective myth. Welcome to ancient Egypt. Or more specifically, welcome to your new life as an ordinary villager trying to survive just one day without collapsing into a heap of linen and regret. Spoiler, you probably won't. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up before dawn, not because you're a morning person, but because the desert doesn't really believe in sleeping in. The temperature's already creeping past warm, nudging up to sweaty pit of the underworld, and the inside of your tiny mud brick hut smells like what happens when goats, damp reeds, and unwashed humans throw a sleepover. You're lying on a woven mat stuffed with straw that's poking you in places you didn't know had nerves. There's no mattress, no pillow, just a dusty reed mat and a lumpy linen scrap that might have been a blanket in another life. You scratch your ankle. It's either a mosquito bite or a scorpion gave you a love tap during the night. You don't really want to know. You sit up slowly. The air is thick with the musty scent of old herbs, wet sand, and someone's half-digested lentils. The walls of the hut, made of sun-dried mud, are cracked and crumbling slightly in the corners, like they're sighing along with you. A sliver of light creeps through a hole in the ceiling that's your skylight, by the way, and it glints off the eye of the family cat, who is watching you like you owe him money. Outside, roosters crow in a language that sounds more like screaming than singing. You hear your neighbor yelling at his donkey. You also hear the donkey yelling back, because in ancient Egypt, animals do not respect you, especially not before breakfast. The air is already sticky. You can feel sweat forming on your neck, even though you haven't moved yet. The desert sun doesn't rise, it ambushes. And in this part of the Nile Valley, there's no gentle morning breeze or birds chirping romantically. There's just heat, dust, and a goose that has somehow gotten into your living space again. You try to shoo it away. It hisses. You back off. It wins. Your hut is shared with a few other souls your family, maybe a cousin or two, and likely a few freeloading spiders who believe they pay rent in vibes. There's no privacy here. You slept shoulder to shoulder with your younger brother, who spent half the night snoring like a hippo and the other half kicking you with grimy toes. You reach for your water jug, there's a little left from the night before. It's lukewarm and vaguely tastes like old pottery. But hey, it hasn't killed you yet. You splash a bit on your face. It's not refreshing, but it helps peel your eyelids open. There's no sink, no mirror, no toothpaste, no toothbrush. You rub your teeth with a mixture of crushed rock salt and maybe a twig if you're lucky. And by the way, historians still argue whether this was remotely effective, or just made your gums recede faster than the Nile flood during a drought. You take a moment to breathe. The sky's beginning to shift pinks, oranges, and a sun that looks like it's personally offended by your existence. It's going to be a scorcher today, which in Egypt means the usual drink beer, sweat a lot, and hope the gods don't notice you. You step outside barefoot, because sandals are optional and also very expensive. Your feet immediately touch the packed earth, still cool from the night but quickly heating up. You squint at the horizon. The Nile glimmers in the distance, lazy and unbothered, like it didn't spend the last 1,000 years flooding and receding on a whim. You hear it before you see it, boats creaking, oars slapping the water, fishermen yelling cheerful obscenities at each other. You stretch. Your back cracks like a papyrus scroll being unrolled too fast. You're 19, but you feel 50. The work here ages you quickly. There's grain to thresh, pots to haul, bricks to mould. Maybe you'll be sent to the fields today. Maybe to help transport stone blocks for some noble's afterlife condo. Either way, you won't be sitting much. Nearby, someone starts banging on a copper bowl to wake the workers. It's not exactly an alarm clock, it's more like a very aggressive gong show. You hear someone retch behind a hut, probably last night's spoiled lentils making a dramatic encore. You look around, chickens scatter underfoot. The village priest is already making his rounds, humming a hymn to the god Thoth, while side-eyeing the goat that keeps stealing his offering basket. You nod at a neighbour who's rubbing clay on his face not for skincare, but for sun protection. And possibly to scare away flies. Or just because it's what his dad did. You sigh. It's going to be a long day. And this was just the wake-up. You shuffle toward the corner of the hut that serves as your personal hygiene station. Station is a generous term. It's a shallow clay basin with some murky water that's been reused so many times. You're not sure if it's meant for washing or brewing soup. There's a palm fibre brush beside it, coarse, worn down, and suspiciously damp. You pick it up anyway. It's either scrub or show up to work smelling like yesterday's regret. You splash a handful of water on your face. It trickles down your neck, bringing temporary relief before instantly evaporating into the morning heat. No soap, of course. Soap won't be invented for another millennium or so, and even when it is, it won't smell like lavender and rainbows. Instead, you mix nature on a chalky blend of sodium carbonate and baking soda with a dash of crushed acacia bark. Historians believe this mix sort of worked as a cleanser. Sort of. If you're okay with your skin stinging afterward, your deodorant is homemade, and by homemade we mean who let this bird product ferment. It's a mix of ostrich eggshell powder, oil, and maybe some myrrh if your family has any connections. You smear it under your arms and try not to gag. The smell isn't terrible. Exactly, it's just confusing. Like something pretending to be clean, but with undertones of despair. There's no privacy. Your little brother is brushing his teeth with a frayed stick while humming a hymn to Bastet, the cat goddess. Your mother is rubbing sandalwood oil onto her scalp and yelling at someone to stop feeding figs to the goat again. Outside, neighbours argue over who stole whose basket, as if the answer isn't always the goat. Now comes the hairstyle. For men, it's a matter of convenient shaved heads to keep cool and avoid lice. For women, it's more elaborate long braids, beeswax twists, maybe even a wig if they can afford one. You're somewhere in between. Your hair is a tangle of sweat, sand, and Nile breeze. You dip your fingers in castor oil and do your best. The result semi-drowned bird in a sandstorm. But it'll do. Clothing next. You slip into a simple linen kilt, which has definitely seen better days, probably back in the reign of Amenhotep. It's been washed maybe twice this season, pounded on a rock by the river and hung in the sun to dry until it's stiff as a papyrus scroll. Linen is the fabric of choice here. It breathes well, dries fast, and clings to you when you're sweating, which is always. There's a belief, still debated among scholars, that ancient Egyptians scented their clothes using cone-shaped lumps of perfumed fat placed atop their heads, which slowly melted throughout the day. You don't have one. You have onions in your pocket and dried sweat on your collar. Close enough. Your sandals, if you have them, are made of braided papyrus or leather. They offer roughly the same protection as 2 pieces of floppy toast. Most people walk barefoot, toes toughened by years of dodging sharp stones, dung, and the occasional angry ibis. You tie the sandals anyway. 10 steps later, you regret it. They squeak with every move, drawing unwanted attention from the village chicken mafia. Someone calls your name from outside, probably a friend, or maybe your overseer, or possibly that guy who's convinced you owe him fish. You glance at yourself in the water's reflection, dusty, slightly sunburned, radiating the energy of someone who's just now realizing breakfast is still an hour away. There's no makeup, not for you, anyway. But the elites use kohl around their eyes, not for vanity, but to reduce glare and ward off infections. It's like the ancient Egyptian version of sunglasses meets eyeliner. You rub a bit under your lids with a charcoal stick. It stings slightly, but makes your eyes pop, or at least distracts from the fact you haven't slept through the night since the last good Nile flood. As you step outside again, a gust of warm air greets you like a slap. A few women are grinding grain at the communal mill, their arms moving rhythmically as stone grates against stone. Children run barefoot, shrieking with laughter as they chase each other around baskets of lentils. Someone trips and falls into a goat, which barely flinches. You make your way past the pottery stall just aboard on 2 crates, stacked with clay jars, and nod at the merchant, who gives you a look that says, "You still haven't paid for that cracked bowl." You quicken your pace. There's always one bowl you forgot to return. By now, the sun is fully up, turning everything gold and white and blinding. The palm trees sway gently in the breeze, the river sparkles in the distance, and the smell of baking bread wafts through the air. It's almost peaceful, if you ignore the sweat trickling down your spine, the goat chewing your sash, and the man in the corner loudly coughing up something that should probably be buried. You're dressed, you're washed relatively, and you're ready. Sort of. Not really, but in ancient Egypt, that's as good as it gets. You start heading toward breakfast, or whatever counts as breakfast in ancient Egypt, which is less brunch with mimosas and more consume carbs until the hunger headache stops. The communal food area is already buzzing with activity. A line of half-awake villagers shuffle forward, hands outstretched like linen-clad zombies. No one's smiling. They've all met breakfast before. Your stomach growls, hopeful and naive. You remember yesterday's meal, and the day before, and the day before that. Spoiler, they were all the same. A squat, stone oven sits at the heart of the food station, glowing with leftover heat from the overnight fire. A woman, strong-armed and completely unfazed by the world, is pulling out flat loaves of barley bread using a wooden paddle. The bread smells fine, kind of yeasty, kind of burnt, with just a hint of ash and dust. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to bite into a warm coaster, this is your chance. You accept your ration without comment around. Dense chunk of bread that could double as a weapon. It's warm, at least. You tear off a bite. It crumbles like compressed sand and immediately sticks to the roof of your mouth. You chew, slowly, very slowly. There's a crunch you weren't expecting. You hope it's just unground barley. You suspect it's not. Some days, there's a smear of mashed dates or honey if someone got lucky at the market. Not today. Today it's bread. Just bread. The kind of bread that makes you appreciate modern dental care. Or wish for teeth made of granite. You glance around. Everyone's chewing solemnly, eyes glazed over. There's a man gnawing at the corner of his loaf like it owes him money. A little boy pokes his with a stick to see if it will fight back. A grandmother dunks hers into a clay cup of beer and stirs thoughtfully, like she's trying to summon joy from the bottom. Ah yes, the beer. Breakfast's best friend. You grab your own cup, rough, handmade pottery, stained from years of use, and peer inside. It's filled with a beige liquid that looks like a blend of soup and regret. Ancient Egyptian beer isn't filtered. It's made from fermented barley mash, water, and wild yeast. Historians call it gritty, which is the polite way of saying you're about to drink bread that gave up. You sip. It's sour. It's warm. It has texture. It's like someone took oatmeal and said, "What if this got you through pyramid construction?" You grimace. You sip again. It still doesn't get better, but it does make your vision a little fuzzier in a way that feels calming. Children drink it too. It's not alcohol in the modern sense. It's hydration with ambition. Water's not safe. Water has things in it. Water might kill you. Beer just makes you burp a lot. There's no fruit. Not unless it's harvest season and you know a guy. And forget about eggs, cheese, or milk, unless you're stealing them from a chicken while it's distracted, or risking your life near a cow that hates you. Meat. That's a feast food. You won't see meat until someone gets married, dies, or catches a fish that doesn't immediately swim away laughing. As you gnaw through your breakfast, you watch the others. Some are already talking about the work ahead. Some are fighting over who left the communal ladle in the fire again. One guy is pretending not to notice his goat eating his tunic. No one's complaining. Not really. Complaining takes energy, and bread this dry absorbs every ounce of it. Suddenly, a small excitement stirs. Someone found a beetle in their loaf. There's a quick, whispered debate, good luck or bad omen. No one can agree. Historians still argue whether bugs in bread were considered divine messengers or just poor food storage. Either way, it's protein. You finish your meal, your jaw aches, your stomach is confused. Was that food or a slow punishment? Your brain wants coffee. Your culture says have more beer. You do. You rinse your mouth with water from a jug that looks like it's never been washed. It tastes like wet pottery and disappointment. Still, it's better than the leftover barley paste stuck between your molars. People begin rising, stretching, preparing for the long walk to the worksite. You join them, sluggish but full if full means your stomach feels occupied, not necessarily happy. The sun is higher now. The air is already shifting from morning heat to pre-baking. You step into the day, slightly buzzed from your grain smoothie, breath coated in yeast, and body preparing for a full day of manual labour powered by ancient carbs. There's no variety, no brunch options, no oat milk, No smoothies, no guilty pleasure pastries, just the same rough bread every day until your gums rebel or your molars give up. It's less a meal and more a test of willpower, but you've passed today's test. You've eaten the bread, you've drunk the beer, you haven't cried. Yet. Time to go be useful. You wipe your mouth with the back of your hand because napkins don't exist and step back into the rising heat, ready to face the day. Sort of. You're mostly just hoping your sandals don't fall apart before noon. They're hanging on by a thread. Literally. One of the pepper straps is fraying like a nervous servant in front of the vizier. Time to get dressed, though. Really. You're already wearing most of what you own. Ancient Egyptian fashion isn't about options. It's about survival. You've got one tunic, maybe two if you're doing well. And by tunic, we mean a single piece of linen wrapped around your body with the elegance of a bedsheet hastily converted into a toga. Your linen is a little yellowed, a little stiff, and smells faintly of river water and the smoke of yesterday's cooking fire. But linen is the best fabric you'll get. It's light, breathable, and excellent at picking up every speck of dust within a 5-mile radius. The elite have finely spun linen thin enough to see through, soft as a cloud. You've got the type of linen that exfoliates your skin whether you want it to or not. You fumble to secure it with a crude tie around your waist. There's no button, no zipper, just knots and hope. If it slips, you become an accidental streaker. Again. Underwear bold of you to ask. There's no such thing unless you're high-ranking and fancy enough for a loincloth upgrade. The rest of us simply live dangerously. If you're a woman, your garment is a long-sheath dress, form-fitting, one strap or two, depending on the mood of your seamstress and how many goat intrusions occurred during sewing. Some women add beads or wear amulets for style and protection. You don't have beads. You have a piece of string and an attitude. Belts are optional, but helpful. They give your look that extra flair of I might own a clay bowl that isn't cracked. You tie one on, feel instantly like someone who probably knows how to carry a basket on their head. Your accessories today include a necklace made from painted clay beads, an amulet shaped like an ankh borrowed from your cousin, and a thin headband to keep your sweat from dripping directly into your eyes. It doesn't work, but you like the optimism. If you're lucky, there's a spare tunic hanging on a peg. You glance at it longingly. It's reserved for festivals, or funerals. Honestly, probably both, given the overlap in ancient Egyptian social planning. You consider perfume? Wealthy households have scented oils lotus, myrrh, cinnamon. But you're working class. Your version of scent is didn't roll in dung this morning. There's a tiny dab of castor oil behind your ears, applied with a stick that doubles as a hair tool. It smells passable. And hey, it's mosquito season. Anything that masks the scent of blood is a win. Now for shoes. Ah, yes, the sandals. You stare down at them like an old friend who's let you down repeatedly, but you still can't let go. They're made of woven papyrus, stiff leather, or sometimes palm fibre. You slip them on. One squeaks, one flaps. Both are about as effective as taping crackers to your feet. Most people don't bother. They go barefoot and grow calluses thick enough to qualify as armour. You envy them, then immediately step on a pebble and rethink everything. The sun is fully up now, high and bold, casting sharp shadows on every hut and every pile of bricks. You spot the wealthier neighbours stepping out of their homes, robes smoother, linen brighter, wigs perfectly oiled. Their sandals don't squeak. Their kids carry baskets, not sticks pretending to be swords. Speaking of wigs, yep, wigs are a thing. The higher your social status, the fancier your headgear. Real human hair, sometimes mixed with plant fibre, styled into elaborate shapes that say, I definitely don't haul grain for a living. You have a braid that won't stay put and a cowlick that might be possessed. And let's not forget the makeup. Kohl, made from galena and soot, is worn around the eyes to reduce sun glare and invoke divine protection. Rich or poor, many people wear it. You apply a tiny streak under each eye with a sharpened stick. It makes you look vaguely mysterious. Or like you've been crying. Either way, people might avoid conversation, which is a plus. Historians still argue whether these cosmetic routines were purely practical, religious, or fashion statements. Probably all three. You don't have time to debate. You're just trying to make it to the work site before your foreman does his morning who didn't show up scream. As you head out, a few kids dart past, covered in mud from the riverbank and giggling like tomorrow doesn't involve taxes. A dog barks half-heartedly. Someone drops a pot. You tie your tunic tighter and walk a little faster. You pass by the shrine at the edge of the village. A few people are already offering prayers, lighting incense sticks, or muttering into their palms. You bow slightly. Can't hurt, might help. The gods are moody, and the last thing you need is a smiting before lunch. You feel the sun pressing on your back like a warning. You're barely dressed, practically dripping with sweat, and already wondering if there's a decent patch of shade near the fields. There isn't, but you keep walking, because that's what you do. You're dressed, you're alive, and for now, that's enough. The walk to work isn't far, but in the Egyptian sun, distance is more psychological than geographical. It's not about how many steps, it's about how many regrets you collect on the way. You trudge along a path carved by centuries of bare feet and hopeful sandals. The ground is hot and cracked, with patches of dry grass that look like they've given up on life entirely. A donkey trudges alongside you, chewing something invisible and making deep eye contact like it knows you're not emotionally ready for this day either. Your destination. The local construction site, a glorious endeavour decreed by the pharaoh, supposedly in the name of the gods, but more likely a vanity project that'll be forgotten the moment someone richer dies. Today, you've been assigned to help transport limestone blocks for a new tomb. Not a royal one. This one's for a minor noble, which means only slightly fewer chances of being yelled at by someone with eyeliner and a complex. As you approach the site, a chorus of voices rises in a semi-rhythmic chant. Workers are already lined up, dragging sleds piled with limestone across sand slicked with water. The chant helps them synchronize. It also helps them not scream. You join the crew, no introductions. Everyone already knows who smells like fermented beer and whose sandals broke again. It's you. Your task is hauling. That's the whole job title. You're handed a rope and pointed toward a sled already groaning under the weight of a limestone block the size of a cow. You take your position alongside 3 other people who look just as thrilled as you are. The overseer shouts something about pace and posture, then immediately goes back to leaning on a stick and pretending to supervise. The sun climbs higher, your muscles groan louder, you dig your heels into the sand, tugging the sled forward inch by inch. There are no wheels, just sand, sweat, and your questionable life choices. The Egyptians didn't invent the wheel for construction use, at least not here. Historians still argue about whether it was due to practicality, terrain, or just a stubborn cultural preference for doing things the hard way. Water is poured onto the sand to reduce friction. It helps. Kind of. Mostly it creates muddy ruts that suck your sandals off mid-step and laugh while you fall face first into your own effort. And let's talk about your tools. A wooden lever, a thick rope, a copper chisel, maybe. Nothing powered, nothing ergonomic. It's the fitness program no one asked for. And if you damage the stone or misplace a block, the best case scenario is public humiliation. The worst, you're reassigned to dung duty. Again. Someone sneezes. You flinch. The last time someone sneezed at the worksite, they blamed it on bad spirits and made him carry bricks uphill for the rest of the week just to sweat them out. You pause to wipe the sweat from your brow with your tunic. Bad idea. It's already soaked and coated in fine desert dust. You now look like someone tried to bake you halfway through. A priest passes by with a clipboard well, a wax tablet, but the vibe is the same. He mutters a blessing, or maybe a curse. With ancient Egyptian, it's hard to tell. Either way, you nod like you understand and pull harder. Nearby, someone is carving instructions into a wall how the tomb should look, which gods should be honoured, and what kind of afterlife snacks the noble wants. You wonder briefly what your own tomb would say. Probably, please put me in the shade this time. A man behind you starts humming a hymn to Ptah, god of craftsmen. You join in. It helps. Sort of. Mostly. It just makes the work feel more like communal punishment, which is at least better than solo despair. A low whistle signals the first break. You collapse near a palm tree stump, gasping. Your hands are raw, your back aches, and your face is a new shade of red. Someone tosses you a fig. You nod in thanks, bite into it, and immediately regret not checking for ants first. You look around. A few workers are comparing blisters. One guy is showing off a chipped tooth like it's a battle scar. Another is carving a cat into the sand with his toe. You catch your breath. You try not to think about the hour still left in the day. or the fact that this exact scene has played out for generations. The work is backbreaking. It always has been. The monuments might be grand, but they were built by people who prayed every night that the sun would take a sick day. The overseer shouts again, breaks over, time to drag more stone. You sigh, stand, and re-grip the rope. Your fingers are already blistered, but there's no choice. In ancient Egypt, work isn't a part of life. It is life. And yours just started. You brace your feet in the sand again. The sled creaks like it's about to fall apart, which would be a blessing, honestly. And the rope bites into your palms as the team begins to haul. The chant starts up once more, a deep, rhythmic call and response meant to keep everyone in sync, and distracted from the fact that you're basically pulling a stone couch across the Sahara. The overseer strolls by again, adjusting the reed that passes for a hat and pretending to inspect your work. He doesn't help. He never does. He taps someone's shoulder with a stick and mutters something about posture, then walks off to harass the team with the pottery jars. The sled bumps forward a few inches. A few grains of sand shift. That's progress. The heat makes everything feel slower, like you're moving through honey. But not delicious honey, more like the kind ants drowned in last week. You look around. Behind you, the quarry team is hacking away at the next batch of limestone. They're using copper chisels and dolerite hammers, basically fancy rocks to break other rocks. It's a miracle anything gets built, and yet, somehow, it does. Here's the wild part: the pyramids, temples, tombs, all of it were built without iron, without wheels for transport, and definitely without bulldozers. Just simple tools, brute strength, and a workforce motivated by bread, beer, and the fear of being assigned to crocodile pit cleaning. The building system, surprisingly organized. Ancient Egyptians used grids, plumb bobs, levels, and ropes stretched taut for alignment. The blocks are hauled onto ramps made of mud brick and rubble, sometimes greased with animal fat. Historians still argue whether they use straight ramps, zigzag ramps, or some form of divine intervention involving very tired oxen. You wouldn't know. All you see is a ramp that looks suspiciously unstable and far too steep for your enthusiasm level. Someone beside you curses as the sled hits a rut and tips slightly. You rush to balance it, your shoulder digging against the stone's sharp edge. It scrapes your skin, just a surface wound. But in this heat, every cut is a potential infection invitation. You keep pulling. Another worker collapses forward, panting. The overseer sighs loudly, like he's the one suffering. You pretend not to notice the blood on your wrist. Nearby, the foreman is giving instructions using a stick and a diagram scratched into the dirt. It looks like a child's drawing of a fish attacking a rectangle. But everyone nods solemnly, like it makes perfect sense. It doesn't. A temple priest approaches with a bundle of papyrus scrolls. He's here to record today's block counts. You offer a weak nod. He ignores you. Only the scribes matter. Their hands stay clean. Their backs never touch the stone. The contrast is clear. Builders break their bodies. Scribes break papyrus. Guess which job gets better sandals? You trudge back down the ramp to reload the sled. Your arms are sore, your tunic is soaked, and there's a beetle crawling across your forehead. You flick it off gently. Even the insects feel sacred here. Swatting might anger someone human or divine. While resting for a breath, you overhear two workers debating something. One claims the pharaoh will visit the site next week. The other says he's just a statue now, no one's seen him in years. The truth? Hard to say. Pharaohs are gods on earth, but they also tend to disappear behind veils of ceremony and incense. Historians still debate how involved rulers really were in day-to-day construction. You know one thing, they're definitely not here sweating beside you. You tie your head wrap tighter to keep the sun off your neck. It doesn't help much. The sun isn't hot now, it's personal. Like it knows your name and is trying to make a point. You drink from a shared water jar. It tastes like clay, sweat, and communal desperation. But it's wet and it's not beer, so you're grateful. A fly lands in it. You drink anyway. There's no time to be picky. Another load, another pull, another moment where you forget what your spine felt like before the pain. The chant rises again. You add your voice not to feel inspired, but to keep from passing out. You think about quitting, about walking into the Nile and asking the crocodiles to adopt you. But you don't. You haul, you grunt, you sweat. Because in this life, you don't build to be remembered. You build because if you don't, someone else will and they'll get the bread. Eventually. You finish the morning load. You drop the rope and collapse against a rock that's only slightly cooler than the surface of the sun. Your hands are shaking, your legs feel hollow, but you're still breathing. That counts as victory. A shadow passes over you. A priest. He nods solemnly and places a lotus blossom beside the half-built tomb. For the gods. Or maybe for you. You're not sure anymore. All you know is that it's not even noon, and the hardest part of the day is still to come. You stand up slowly, muscles creaking like the hinges of an ancient door. Your knees protest. Your back mutters something threatening. It's midday now, the sun has reached its full, blinding arrogance, and there's no escape. The heat doesn't sit politely above you. It wraps itself around your shoulders like a molten scarf and seeps into your bones. Shade rare. If you find any. It belongs to someone higher ranking. You glance longingly at the tiny palm frond shelter near the supervisor's hut. He's napping in it. Naturally, you squint upward. No clouds, no breeze. Just relentless golden sky and the gentle hiss of your own sweat evaporating. Now comes the part of the day where survival means creativity. You reach into your pouch and pull out your secret weapon sunscreen. That's in quotes because it's not exactly copper tone. It's a homemade concoction of animal fat, clay, and, yes, crocodile dung. You smear it on your arms and neck. It smells aggressive, like someone tried to bottle the scent of wet lizard and regret. But it works. Sort of. Ancient Egyptians believed crocodile dung had protective and possibly magical properties. Historians still argue whether that was a medical choice or just something that sounded cool in a temple scroll. You don't care. You're just trying not to get boiled alive. You tie a scrap of linen around your head, already soaked through, and tug it low over your brow. Sweat beads on your upper lip. Your eyelids stick every time you blink. You feel like a sponge someone forgot to wring out. The stone under your feet is hot enough to fry lentils. You're barefoot now. Your sandals gave up around the third sled hall and are currently hanging off a nail. Defeated. You step gingerly over the sand, hopping now and then like a highly ungraceful heron. A fellow worker sits nearby, fanning herself with a palm leaf and muttering a prayer to Sekhmet, goddess of fire, war, and probably spontaneous combustion. You consider joining her, but your brain is too fried to form words. Suddenly, a shout from the river, someone's jumped in, clothes and all. There's a brief moment of scandalized silence, followed by laughter, then a splash, then 3 more. It's a heat wave. Protocol is melting. So is your will to behave. You trudge toward the edge of the Nile, where a few others are gathered, splashing water onto their faces, arms, and sandals. The river is muddy, filled with reeds, tiny fish, and possibly a few things with teeth. But it's cool. It's moving. It doesn't ask questions. You scoop a handful of water and pour it over your head. Your scalp sings. The water is lukewarm at best, but it might as well be ice after hours in the sun. You don't dare wade in, though. The crocodiles here are less about mythology and more about reality. One lurks about 30 yards upriver, floating like a log with an attitude problem. You nod respectfully in its direction. Ancient rule always acknowledged the croc. He might be sacred, or just hungry. Someone nearby is rubbing clay across his chest like sunscreen. Another person pulls a fish out of the water using a net fashioned from reeds and string. It's a tiny thing, barely worth cooking, but everyone cheers anyway. Small victories. You spot a priest walking past, wearing a delicate white tunic and barely breaking a sweat. He nods solemnly and taps his head in reverence to the river. The Nile is life, after all. It feeds the crops, cools the skin, and sometimes tries to drown the careless. Balance. Your own body is steaming slightly, like bread fresh from the oven. You sit on a smooth stone, letting the heat seep out of your bones. A dragonfly buzzes by your ear. You swat lazily. Miss. Of course. You reach for a satchel tucked under a nearby tree inside, a few dried figs and some old lotus petals. You chew slowly, savouring the faint sweetness. Figs. Thankfully, don't melt. Lotus petals do nothing for hunger, but chewing them helps you forget your mouth feels like a clay bowl. Around you, others are slathering more ointment, fixing broken sandals, arguing about whether Ra or Thoth is more likely to forgive people who skip the midday prayer. You listen quietly. You're too tired to argue. You'd vote for whichever god invents umbrellas. Historians believe midday was when most workers took shelter, at least for a bit. You'd like to believe that too. The truth, you only stop if the foreman can't find you or if he's sleeping off last night's beer. Today, you're lucky. You've got maybe 20 more minutes before someone yells again. You glance at the sun. It hasn't moved. You swear it's watching you. Eventually, your moment of peace ends. The supervisor's voice cuts across the heat like a blade. Time to work. You sigh, stand, and brush the sand off your legs. It clings. Of course. Everything clings. You give the crocodile one last nod. He blinks slowly. Then you return to the heat, to the stone, to the work, because this is midday in ancient Egypt, and if you don't keep moving, the sun will finish what the rope started. Back at the site, the sun has done something truly cruel. It's gotten hotter. Not just warmer. Hotter. The kind of heat that makes you question every decision that led to your birth in a mud-brick village by a river with crocodiles for neighbours. You rejoin your crew. Everyone looks slightly melted, as if the group has collectively aged 20 years since morning. No one's talking now. Talking takes energy, and energy is being rationed like barley during a bad flood season. The task at hand, more hauling, of course. But this time, it's not limestone blocks. It's baskets of mud brick. Easier. Right, you'd think so. Until you remember each brick is handmade, sun-dried, and feels like it weighs as much as a guilt-laden cat statue. Your basket can hold 6, 7 if you're feeling competitive, 8 if you hate your spine. You hoist a load and begin the trek from the drying area to the tomb's outer wall. Your arms burn. Your shoulder stings where the rope rubbed earlier. Your feet, still barefoot, are one pebble away from open rebellion. You walk a well-worn path, dodging piles of straw, broken tools, and a child chasing a chicken like it owes him money. You pass the priest's assistant writing records on a clay tablet. He doesn't look up. He never does. His job involves 0 sun, 0 lifting, and 0 chance of developing sand blisters. You drop your bricks by the wall with a grunt. Someone nearby tries to stack theirs faster, slips, and drops one on his foot. The scream is loud enough to startle a heron. Everyone freezes. The overseer looks over, unimpressed. "Keep going," he calls out. Empathy didn't make it past the old kingdom. You glance at your hands. They're caked with dust, grime, and sweat. A blood blister is forming near your thumb. You squeeze it gently and regret everything. Still, you go back for more. Each trip becomes a meditation. Step, shift, adjust basket. Step, ignore buzzing flies. Step, curse that one sharp rock. Repeat. The chant picks up again, this time slower, more tired. It's not really about rhythm anymore. It's survival noise. If you're singing, you're breathing. If you're breathing, you're still alive. The bricks you carry are made from a mix of mud, water, chopped straw, and sometimes, because nature is generous, animal dung. They're pressed into wooden molds and left to bake in the sun until hard enough to hurt when dropped on a toe, which just happened. Again, you glance at the wall rising ahead of you. Each layer represents hours of this. Hundreds of bricks. Thousands. All for a tomb that will one day be looted by someone with a chisel and no respect. There's something almost poetic about it. Almost. Mostly it's just exhausting. You pass a group of older labourers resting in the thin shadow of a tool shed. They look like mummies with better tans. One is sharpening a chisel with a flat stone. Another is chewing a reed. A third is napping with his mouth open wide enough to catch flies, and You're tempted to join them, to slump into the shade and pretend you've been there the whole time. But you know better. Someone is always watching. Usually the skinny guy with the weirdly alert eyes and a notched stick for tracking latecomers. You suspect he's part jackal. You haul another load. Halfway through, you feel something shift in your shoulder, a pull, a twinge, a whisper of betrayal. You grimace. You keep walking. No one complains. No one stops. If you stop, someone else gets your bread, or your beer, or your job. Suddenly, there's a small stir of excitement. A caravan is approaching from the east. A few donkeys, some baskets, and miracle of miracles, jars of oil and honey. A tax collection for the nobleman, no doubt. But still, the sight of something new causes workers to straighten up. One man even wipes his face with a rag instead of his hand. You wonder, for a moment, what it would be like to work in the noble's estate. Not for him with him. As a scribe, or a gardener, somewhere with walls, somewhere with shade, somewhere you don't need crocodile dung for sunblock. You load the final bricks and return to the shade of a half-built doorway. The wall offers maybe 6 inches of reprieve from the sun, but you hug it like a long-lost friend. You lean against the rough surface, eyes closed, chest rising and falling in tired rhythm. Someone hands you a jar of water. You drink deeply. It's warm. It tastes like the inside of a jar, but it goes down smooth. For a moment, you feel human again. Then the overseer calls out, one last task before evening, moving scaffolding poles to the other side of the site. You sigh. Scaffolding in ancient Egypt is made of wooden beams tied with a rope, dragged from place to place like reluctant livestock. You lift one end. It's heavier than it looks. Everything here is, including your limbs. As you drag the poles, you notice the setting sun starting to paint the world in softer colours. Golds, reds, long shadows. The heat doesn't stop, but the day is beginning to shift. That's something. You finish moving the poles. You straighten your back. You immediately regret doing that. Still one more chore done. One step closer to nightfall. One step closer to whatever counts as rest in this world. The sky begins to soften. Finally, the once blazing sun has dipped just enough to stop trying to kill you. It's now casting long shadows across the ground. Shadows that you chase with desperate feet as you find a sliver of evening shade near a half-finished wall. You sit. You don't lower yourself carefully. You collapse. Your body sags like wet linen, sticky and sore and humming with exhaustion. Around you, other workers are doing the same, dropping into rest like puppets with snipped strings. No one speaks. Everyone is listening to the silence of not moving. Then, slowly, the evening chores begin. You rise again, because you must. There's still work to do before you're allowed to stop. Tools need to be cleaned, leftover materials organised. The job doesn't end when the overseer stops yelling. It ends when everything's ready to begin again tomorrow. You grab a copper chisel with a blade duller than your motivation and begin scraping the excess dust and grime from your sandals, what's left of them. Anyway, another worker nearby is wiping down a dolerite hammerstone, humming quietly to herself. The rhythm is hypnotic, peaceful, even. You think about joining her, but your legs say no. A supervisor walks by and grunts something about good form today. You can't tell if it's sarcasm. You decide to believe it's praise. It's safer that way. The communal storage hut creaks as people file in to drop off tools. There's an organised chaos to it. Each item has a place, even if no one remembers exactly where that is. You drop your rope coil on a hook, wipe your hands on your tunic, and exhale through your nose in something like relief. Now comes one of your most sacred duties of the day, body inspection. You check your arms for sunburn. You check your fingers for cuts. Many. You check your feet. They're no longer feet. They're questionably sentient slabs of pain. You wiggle your toes. 3 of them respond. You call that a win. Someone nearby sneezes twice. A few workers subtly step away. Illness spreads fast in these quarters. There's no such thing as just a cold in ancient Egypt. It's either you'll be fine or your burial will be on Thursday. You reach into your satchel for your secret stash, a small cloth bundle holding garlic and dried herbs. You chew a clove slowly. It's pungent. It burns. But it's supposed to keep the bad spirits out, or at least keep people out of your personal space. Either way, it's effective. As you head back toward the village, the walk feels different. The heat is fading. The light is softening, and people have started talking again. Quiet conversations drift through the air. Gossip about temple priests. Rumours of crocodile omens. Debates about which god causes nosebleeds. Historians still argue whether these evening chats were spiritual, superstitious, or just the ancient version of small talk. Someone makes a joke. You don't catch it. You laugh anyway. It feels good to laugh. You reach the edge of the riverbank, where people have started gathering for the evening rinse-off. It's not a bath, not in the luxurious sense, but it's as close as you'll get. You remove your tunic and wade waist-deep into the Nile, wincing at the first touch of cool water against your sun-battered skin. You wash with your hands, using sand to scrub at the dirt. It's not perfect, but it works. You watch as mud, sweat, and the day's weight swirl away in cloudy tendrils. Around you, others do the same, splashing, dunking, laughing softly. You look upriver. The crocodile is gone. You decide not to ask where it went. There's a strange moment here, a stillness that wraps around you like a blessing. The air is warm but no longer scorching. The sky is a deepening blue. A single ibis glides overhead, wings catching the last of the light. You close your eyes and let yourself float for a few seconds, just enough to remember your body doesn't always have to hurt. Then someone near the shore shouts your name. You swim back, shivering slightly as you step onto land, drying yourself with your tunic and shaking sand from your hair. Dinner's calling. You walk back toward the village with the others, feet dragging, shoulders sagging, spirits not high, but steady. The food hut smells promising, better than usual. You line up, bowl in hand, and are handed a ladle of warm pottage, a thick stew made from lentils, barley, onions, and whatever else didn't rot today. You sniff. No beetles. A good sign. You sit in the dirt. The bowl steams. You blow on it gently. You take your first bite. It's bland. It's wonderful. It means the day is nearly done. You sit cross-legged on the ground, the fading warmth of the day still rising from the sand beneath you as you spoon the last of your lentil pottage into your mouth. It's not gourmet. It's not even particularly good, but it's warm, and it fills the aching hollow in your belly left by sun and labour. Around you, others are finishing their meals in quiet rhythm. Someone burps loudly and gets a half-hearted laugh. A small cat weaves between legs, meowing for scraps. You toss it a bit of bread crust. It sniffs once and walks away, unimpressed. You feel personally rejected. After dinner comes the cleaning. Not dishes, there are no sinks, no soap, and very few actual dishes. Just clay bowls rinsed with a splash of water and wiped out with a scrap of cloth or a handful of sand. You hand yours off to a child tasked with cleaning duty tonight. He looks at it like it's cursed and mutters something under his breath. You stretch your legs. They creak. Your shoulders pop like dry reeds. And then, inevitably, it's time for your second job of the day, family duty. You live with your extended family in a small mud brick house tucked near the back edge of the village. It's about the size of a modern studio apartment if that apartment was filled with smoke, goats, and 3 generations of people who have absolutely no concept of personal space. As you enter, the inside is dim and warm. The oil lamp flickers in the corner. A child is crying softly over a broken reed toy. An older woman is baking flatbread on a stone slab. You duck past your cousin carrying a water jug and nearly trip over a chicken asleep in the middle of the room. Just another quiet night in paradise. You sit beside the bread fire to help with fanning. It's a thankless job. Too much wind and the flames die. Too little and the dough burns. You do your best, rhythmically waving a bundle of palm fronds back and forth while staring into the flames. The heat on your face feels almost gentle compared to the sun. Almost. Your younger brother appears with a question about school. Not formal school. The kind run by temple scribes is reserved for boys from wealthier families, but he's trying to learn numbers from a friend who smuggled a broken tablet home. You try to explain how fractions work with half a barley loaf and a line drawn in dust. He nods, pretending to understand. After the bread is done, you help wrap it in linen and place it in the cool corner of the house, where it'll stay until morning or until someone gets hungry in the middle of the night, whichever comes first. Your grandmother begins telling a story. She always does this after dinner. Tonight, it's about a man who tried to cheat Anubis in the afterlife and ended up as a dung beetle for eternity. She tells it with flair, eyes gleaming, voice lowering to a whisper during the spooky parts. You've heard it before, you'll hear it again, and yet you still listen. Storytelling is a kind of magic here. A moment when time bends and the walls seem to disappear. A time when everyone stops worrying about broken sandals and aching knees and just listens. Even the cat, now curled near the fire, seems to be paying attention. Historians still debate how oral storytelling influenced the written records of Egypt, especially in households that couldn't read hieroglyphs. But you don't care about debates. You just like the way her voice fills the room and makes even this humble space feel like a temple. Eventually, the story ends, and the room quiets. Now comes the part of the day no one talks about, but everyone dreads sleep preparation. There are no beds, no mattresses, no cozy corners, just straw mats, blankets made from coarse linen, and the hope that the floor won't be too cold, or too alive. You unroll your mat in a corner, shake it out. Not because it's polite, but because it might have beetles, or fleas, or worse, You lay it down with care and pull your blanket over it. It smells of smoke and old sweat. You're used to it. Your family settles in around you. The air is thick with breath and dust, and the faint scent of crushed herbs hung over the doorway to keep the spirits out. You lie on your side, knees tucked, arms folded. The floor is hard. It always is. You use a bundle of cloth as a pillow. It offers zero support, but somehow makes your neck feel marginally better than resting on your arm. You close your eyes and immediately open them again when something brushes your foot. A mouse. A lizard. Your imagination. You choose imagination. It's easier to sleep that way. Your little sister begins snoring softly. Someone else coughs. The fire crackles low. The night has its own soundtrack here, quiet, but never silent. Life hums through the darkness like an old, familiar lullaby. You shift. Your mat crackles. Your back groans. But you're grateful. You're home. You're not hungry. You're not alone. And somehow, that's enough. The night is thick now, thick with heat, with breath, with dreams both strange and mundane. Sleep in ancient Egypt isn't a soft luxury. It's a negotiation, a compromise between exhaustion and discomfort. You lie on your side, pressed against your scratchy mat, eyes closed, willing your body to relax. It doesn't. Not at first. It takes time. Your muscles twitch. Your skin itches. A mosquito whines past your ear, and you slap at the air, missing by a wide margin. Someone mutters in their sleep. Someone else coughs. You sigh and pull your blanket higher. Eventually, your body gives in, not because it's comfortable, but because it's defeated. You drift, and just when sleep wraps its arms around you, the drums start. You jolt awake, blinking into the darkness, heart thudding. Not war drums, not yet. These are temple drums, deep, slow, ceremonial. The sound floats from the direction of the village's small temple, echoing across the stillness like a heartbeat from the gods. A holy night, then, or a festival. Or maybe someone died. No one speaks, but you feel the shift in the room. Everyone's awake now, breathing a little shallower, not afraid, just aware. The drums continue, steady as the Nile. You sit up. You pull your blanket around your shoulders like a cloak and shuffle to the doorway. Outside, the village glows in pockets, oil lamps flickering in shrines, priests moving like shadows in linen robes. You hear the chant rise, a slow, winding prayer to Thoth, god of wisdom and writing, or maybe to Bastet. You can't quite tell. The words are ancient, older than the bricks beneath your feet. Someone passes by with an offering bowl filled with dates and burning incense. You nod respectfully. They don't see you. Or maybe they do and just don't care. Either way, it's sacred business. You stay out of it. Behind you, your sister whispers. Do you think it's a judgment night? You don't answer. But you wonder. Historians still argue what many of these late-night rituals meant. Some believe they were tied to lunar cycles, others to death, agriculture, or the dreams of the priests themselves. You've always believed it's all of those and something else too. Something deeper, something not written down. You return to your mat. The drums fade. The chanting drifts away like smoke. Sleep creeps back in, and this time it stays. You wake again before dawn. Your back cracks as you sit up. Your arms are sore, your legs stiff. But it's a new day, and you're breathing. You count that as a victory. The room is darker than it should be. A thick mist has rolled in from the Nile, and the early morning light is filtered through it like honey through linen. It casts everything in pale gold and silver shadows. You rub your face. Your fingertips come away dusty. You stand and stretch. Your joints sound like old door hinges. You shuffle to the door and breathe in the air where it smells wet, clean, alive. Outside, others are waking too. A chorus of yawns and quiet greetings. Someone sings softly while lighting a fire. A goat bleats. A dog barks once, then returns to its nap. You head to the riverbank to wash. The water is cold, biting against your skin, but it's fresh. You splash your face, your arms, your chest. You mutter a quick prayer to Happy, god of the Nile, and toss a lotus petal into the current. It swirls once, then drifts away. As you return home, You pass a row of homes with doors flung open to the mist. Families are already preparing the morning meal bread, baking on stones, onions being chopped, the faint clatter of pottery. You pick up a dried reed broom and begin sweeping the threshold of your house. It's a small task, but meaningful. Order is sacred. Cleanliness invites favor from the gods, or at the very least, fewer ants. Afterward, you settle into your usual corner and begin braiding a cord. You're making a replacement for the sandal strap that gave up yesterday. The process is simple weave, pull, tighten. It's the kind of task that lets your mind wander. You think about the dreams you had of sandstorms and tall temples and voices that spoke in riddles. You wonder if they mean anything. In Egypt, dreams are serious business. If you'd had a truly strange one, you could take it to a temple interpreter. But this one felt like your body trying to understand its own tiredness. As the mist burns off and the sun rises higher, the village starts to hum again. Another day has begun, and though your body groans, your hands are already reaching for the work. The sun is up, and so are you begrudgingly. There's a softness to the morning still lingering, but you know better than to get comfortable. That gentle glow will be gone soon, replaced by a blistering stare from the sky that will make you regret every layer of linen on your body. Today, you've been reassigned. No stone hauling, no brick stacking. You're heading to the granary, a temporary break from physical torment. Not quite. The granary has its own flavour of misery. It's less about broken backs and more about fine, clinging dust and the ever-present risk of being yelled at by someone with a stylus. The granary is a squat building with thick walls meant to keep out rats, thieves, and the sun. It doesn't succeed at any of these. Inside, it smells like grain, sweat, and faint disappointment. You're handed a basket and pointed toward a massive pile of barley. Your job is to sort barley on one side, husks and broken bits on the other. Simple. Right. It would be if not for the heat, the dust, the wasps, and the fact that the basket you've been given has a hole in the bottom. You consider complaining. Then you remember who you are, and you don't. You squat down, scooping handfuls of grain, letting it sift through your fingers, separating the usable from the useless. Over and over, the dust gets into your nose, your eyes, your ears. You sneeze 3 times in quick succession. A nearby scribe glares at you like you've offended the gods. You try to ignore the itch in your throat. Grain is currency in ancient Egypt. It's not just food, it's tax, it's wages, it's offering. You could be sorting the very grain that will end up in a temple, or on a noble's table, or in the beer that keeps you alive. That doesn't make it more fun, but it does make it feel a little less pointless. As you work, you overhear the scribes arguing. They're recording the day's counts on papyrus scrolls, arguing about fractions, measurements, and someone apparently trying to skim off a portion for their brother-in-law's birthday. Historians still debate how widespread corruption was in temple-run granaries. You don't need debate. You've seen the scribe with the suspiciously new sandals. You pause to stretch your back. Bad idea. It seizes up like a snapped bowstring. You crouch again quickly, pretending nothing happened. Your pride is all you have left. Nearby, someone is measuring out rations. Workers line up with their reed tokens payment for yesterday's labour. One by one, they receive their due: a scoop of barley, a jug of beer, maybe a bit of dried fish if the gods are smiling and the overseer is distracted. When it's your turn, you hand over your token. The man behind the counter is chewing something. Slowly. He eyes you like your barley count depends on his mood. After a moment, he dumps 2 scoops into your bowl and grunts. You nod. You've learned not to expect explanations. Lunch is back near the river barefoot, as usual. Feet coated in fine dust. Shoulders aching. You sit in the partial shade of a sycamore tree, eating your barley with fingers still lined with grit. The beer is warm, sour, and barely fermented. It tastes like soggy bread and second chances. Someone nearby tells a story about a farmer who fell into his own silo and came out speaking in tongues. Another says he must have been cursed. A third says, no, he probably just had too much barley beer. You lean back against the tree and watch a lizard sun itself on a nearby rock. It blinks slowly. You blink back. The heat thickens. A breeze picks up hot and dry, like someone breathing in your face. You sigh and stand. Back to work. You spend the rest of the afternoon patching baskets, weaving reeds, twisting twine. You get 3 splinters and a cut across your palm from a frayed edge. You wrap it with a scrap of cloth. No one notices. No one helps. They're busy pretending not to be just as miserable. The sky begins to change again, colours shifting from blue to gold to a tired orange. The end of the workday is near, not because someone said so, but because the light says so, and in Egypt, the light is the only real clock that matters. You return the baskets, you nod to the scribe, he doesn't look up, you don't expect him to. The walk home is quiet, your steps are slower, your mind is too tired to wander, but your body knows the way. You arrive home just as the horizon swallows the last of the sun. The village is hushed, draped in twilight like a shawl woven from dust and quiet sighs. Smoke curls from cooking fires. The smell of lentils and roasted onions lingers in the air, carried gently by a breeze that finally mercifully feels cool. You duck into your house. It's dim, but comforting. The same corners, the same noises, the same people breathing softly in their spaces. You exhale as you step over a pile of rushes being woven into mats. Your aunt glances up from her work and offers you a tired smile. You drop your satchel near the wall and sit beside your brother, who's poking at a clay board with a reed stylus, copying out glyphs he's half memorized from the temple murals. He looks up and shows you his work. You squint in the firelight. Is that a falcon or a loaf of bread? You say it's perfect. He beams. Dinner is late tonight. The flatbread took longer to bake. No one complains. Everyone's too tired to care. When it's ready, you eat in a circle, passing bowls, breaking bread with fingers, sipping warm beer from shared jars. The bread is rough but filling. The onions are sweet. You chew slowly, savouring the quiet more than the food. Afterward, your uncle begins a story tonight. It's about the time he saw a ghost near the temple of Osiris. He swears it floated through the palm trees and whispered his name. Your sister rolls her eyes. Your cousin swears he saw the same ghost 3 months ago. Debate erupts. You listen with a grin. Historians still argue whether these tales were believed as literal truth or shared more for social bonding. You don't argue. You just like the way the stories make the walls feel less bare. Outside, a priest walks past, shaking a sistrum, the soft chime marking the beginning of a purification ritual. You listen to the distant chant. It blends with the breeze, with the crickets, with the steady breath of the village settling down. You excuse yourself and step outside. The night is full. The stars are spilling across the sky in a shimmering arch. No city lights to drown them out. Just the universe, unfiltered. You lie back on a small ledge outside your home, hands behind your head, eyes tracing constellations you almost remember. The Big Dipper, Orion, or maybe some Egyptian version, shaped like a jackal or a lotus. You don't know. You just watch, beside you. Your neighbour's dog growls at something in the dark, then curls back into a ball. A cat slinks across the rooftop, tail flicking like a flag of disapproval. You hear music, faint flutes and clapping from somewhere deeper in the village. Maybe a small celebration, a birth, a marriage, or just someone with leftover wine and a good mood. Whatever the reason, the sound is soft and sweet, a lullaby for grown-ups. You think of your ancestors, of the generations who built these streets, who sang these songs, who sat under these stars wondering the same things you do. Why does the river rise? Why do the gods stay silent? Why does everything ache? Even the things you can't name. And yet, here you are, alive, breathing, still reaching for answers in the dark. You whisper a quiet prayer, not formal, not fancy, just a few words offered to the sky. You ask for health, for your family, for an easier day tomorrow. You ask that your sandals not break. You ask that the crocodile stays upriver. You don't expect an answer, but you feel better. You head back inside. The house is darker now. The fire is low. Everyone's already half asleep, wrapped in their blankets, murmuring in dreams. You lie down on your mat, pull your linen over your shoulders, and curl in close to the wall. The clay still holds the sun's warmth. As you close your eyes, you feel the pull of rest, slow and heavy. Your muscles sink, your breath softens, and just before you drift off, you think this is what it means to live. Not in glory, not in greatness, but in quiet, aching persistence. Morning sneaks in before you're ready for it. Again. There's no alarm clock in ancient Egypt, just the sound of roosters, the low clatter of neighbours sweeping their thresholds, and the faint call of a priest welcoming the sun as it rises above the palms. The chant is slow and reverent, drifting through the still air like smoke. You blink awake, your body sends a petition to stay horizontal. Denied. You sit up, sore and stiff, blanket tangled around your legs. A faint breeze tickles the back of your neck through the doorway. You pull on your linen tunic, which hasn't gotten any softer overnight, and stretch until something pops. Maybe a joint, maybe a past life. Breakfast is barley bread and last night's onions. The bread is hard. The onions are stronger. You chew anyway. There's a surprise at the door, your name on a summons tablet. You've been called for temple service. Now, before your imagination runs wild. This doesn't mean priesthood or lounging in golden halls. It means you've been pulled for labor duty work assigned by the priests, for the gods, for divine credit, as they like to say. You head off toward the temple complex, sandals tied, hair tied back, and stomach, trying not to protest too loudly. The temple is massive. Cool stone halls, carvings of gods taller than houses. The priests move like ghosts in white linen, eyes painted, expressions unreadable. You walk a little straighter here, speak a little softer. The gods may not be watching, but the priests definitely are. You're handed a task help with the purification of sacred tools. Sounds ceremonial, holy, elegant. There's none of those things. You're taken to a rear courtyard, handed a stack of ritual vessels, and shown a trough of water. Your job scrub. Rinse, dry, repeat. It's divine dishwashing. But you keep your opinions to yourself. The vessels are beautiful carved alabaster, painted clay, some inlaid with faience. They feel important, powerful. You handle them carefully, dipping each one into the scented water rose. Myrrh, lotus, while murmuring the phrases the priest taught you. Not because you believe the gods are listening, but because if you break one, someone definitely is. As you work, you hear chanting from the inner sanctum. You're not allowed in. Few are. That space is for the high priests and statues of gods so sacred they're clothed, fed, and perfumed daily. There's debate among scholars today about how much the people truly believe the gods lived in those statues. But standing here, surrounded by incense and echoing prayers, it's not hard to see why they did. You rinse a bowl, your reflection wobbling on the surface. For a moment, you don't look like yourself. You look older, wiser, or maybe just more tired. After the vessels, you'll move to the outer court, where offerings are sorted. It's a wild collection papyrus scrolls, food, flowers, beads, feathers, perfume, even a mummified cat. You don't ask questions. Your job now is cataloguing. You're handed a board and a piece of charcoal. You try to make notations the way the scribes do, but your lines are crooked, your birds look like snakes, and your reed glyph resembles an accident. Still, you try. You overhear the scribes arguing again, this time about a grain offering that someone shorted. It's half a measure short, one says. Maybe the god was on a diet. Another mutters. They laugh quietly, then quickly look around. Humour is risky in a holy place. When the midday heat returns, the priests bring out water in silver pitchers and offer a small meal of dates, cucumbers, and honey bread. It's the best food you've had in weeks. You eat slowly, savouring every bite. You wonder briefly if serving the gods is worth it just for the food. Then you remember the morning's endless scrubbing and decide maybe not. As the sun begins its descent, you're dismissed. You bow. You back away. You leave with fingers still pruned and knees aching from kneeling too long. The temple gates close behind you. You walk home slowly, not just from tiredness, but to stretch the moment, to breathe in the quiet. The evening is cooling, the shadows are long and soft. You pass the bakery, where someone's singing. You pass the stables, where a boy is brushing a donkey. You pass a mother chasing her toddler, who's screaming with joy and a half-eaten date in his hand. The world feels warm, not hot, not burning, just warm. You reach your home as the stars appear one by one, and something inside you settles. Tomorrow will be the same. And somehow, that's not so bad. The stars are out in full tonight. The sky is a black velvet dome scattered with pinpricks of cold silver light, and for once, there's no dust storm, no shouting neighbour, no priest reciting hymns to break the silence, just the distant croak of frogs by the riverbank and the quiet hum of the village winding down. You sit on the roof this time. It's flat and cool, made of layered mud brick and straw, and it's your favorite place to think when the world below feels too loud. From here, you can see the flickering glow of temple fires in the distance, the dark line of the Nile winding its way north like a black ribbon, and the pale silhouette of date palms swaying gently in the breeze. You chew on a stalk of sweetgrass. It's bitter at first, but the aftertaste is mild and comforting. Your stomach is full, your body is sore, but for once, your thoughts are calm. You think about the day, about washing sacred vessels and trying not to drop a god's favorite cup, about the scent of incense and the way the temple stone stayed cool no matter how high the sun climbed, about your grandmother's story last night, about how she said the gods carved the stars into the sky so we'd never forget they were watching. You lie back, arms behind your head. The roof is hard but not unpleasant. You look up at the stars and wonder what your name would sound like if it were carved into stone, if someone 1,000 years from now would speak it, or forget it, or never even know it was there. Below, you hear your family settling in for the night, the scratch of feet against clay, the rattle of a closing door, the whispered prayers offered up to whatever god feels closest. You feel a pang of something, not sadness, not joy, just presence. A reminder that you're here, alive, awake beneath the same sky that watched the first pyramids rise. You stretch your arms and close your eyes, just for a moment, but sleep wraps around you like linen. And now, the village fades, the stars blur, soft and silver. The breeze brushes your cheeks, cool and tender. The last ember in the hearth flickers low, and the sounds of evening lull into stillness. You lie in the gentle quiet, wrapped in a thin linen blanket, your body remembering the rhythm of the day and slowly letting it go. Your breathing softens, your thoughts grow light. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls once, then again. But the world has begun to exhale. Even the Nile slows its whisper. The gods above, carved into the sky, watch without judgment. You're a speck beneath their gaze, and yet, to live even one day in this ancient place is to be part of something vast, something sacred, something eternal. You have walked with laborers, eaten with scribes, washed in a holy river. You have been bitten by insects, scolded by priests, and sung to by the stars. You survived what most could not. You lived an entire day in ancient Egypt, and now your body rests. Your breath steadies. Your mind drifts, slow and weightless. Let the warmth of the clay walls hold you. Let the faint scent of lotus and bread soothe you. Let the night deepen, and your limbs grow still. There is nothing else to do now, nothing to lift, nothing to carry. The world will wait. Sleep. Traveller, you have earned your rest. Sweet dreams,